Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to my guest today from Attleboro, Massachusetts. We have an author who has written 2 books. We're going to talk mainly about one today because he'll tell you what happened on his way up here. I brought one of the copies, but Ken Garlick, welcome. Ken, tell us what happened on the way up.
Call it a senior moment. I'm not sure what happened, but I walked out of the house. I was in the process of changing it from a heavy coat to a lighter coat, and I left my wallet, my phone, directions, everything, and
your books.
And my books. Yes, if you can believe that, my God, huh?
The thing I remember.
Something about the cobbler's children go barefoot, something like that. You know, I can't believe I did it, but I found my way here.
Ken, how long have you been writing?
I started writing, I think this one came out in 2016. Mm-hmm. I retired, and like a lot of people that get to that point in life, it was just, what am I going to do now? And to avoid bouncing off the wall, I tried, art classes, and that didn't make it. And I had an idea that I wrote a book maybe 10 years ago, and I got started on it, and then work was a pressure cooker, and I put it up on the shelf, left it there for a while, and then maybe 7-8 years later, I said, well, I'm retired, let's go back to that book.
Yeah.
And then...
that was this first one?
That was the first one, Call Me Madam Alice.
Call Me Madam Alice. And, of course, there's the Titanic right in the center. Did you design the cover?
Well, I had a little input, but I have a good friend, very talented artist that did it.
Stillwater, okay, yeah. All right, very good. They're terrific. Set in the bustle of the Gilded Age of New York, the slow, grim shipyards of post-industrial England, and the deceitful calm of Narragansett Bay. Give us a brief overhaul what the story's about.
Well, Madam Alice is actually a real person. She passed away in 1963. As a kid, I grew up hearing more about her than actually knowing her. She was considered to be clairvoyant, and I have my family had a little cottage on Prudence Island, which is right in the middle of Narragansett Bay, Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. I spent my summers out there. And Madam Alice, she and her husband and her reputation, and people got to know her, and she had this clairvoyant ability. So I just took her, fictionalized her, and then it was a path that was going down. Then I stumbled onto where I thought was a compelling fact about the Titanic, and the more I researched, it was just baffling. And my gut reaction to it was, how come no one knows about this? Everything I document in that book is completely true. It's factual.
Can you share that with us?
Yeah, sure. One of the things that happened, first of all, there's 2 narratives going on at the same time.
Sarah and Delilah, right?
Sarah and Delilah,
yeah.
Right. Sarah, Madam Alice's real name, her birth name was Sarah Carroll. She lived in England. I can't think of the town right now. But she came over from England in the early 1900s. So again, there's 2 narratives going on at the same time, and Madam Alice is the connecting figure. But what I found intriguing about the Titanic was that, J.P. Morgan, we all know that name. The whole world was coming from Europe to the United States. So there was a push on to provide passage, to provide ships. So J.P. Morgan, he had 3 ships built. Mm-hmm. The first one was the Olympic, and then he had the Titanic, and then he had the Britannic built. So what he was trying to gather was the Titanic and the other her sister ships were luxurious liners, but they all also carried an awful lot of steerage, 3rd-class passengers. So he was opening the door to everybody.
It's like in the movie, right?
Like in the movie, yeah. And his first ship launch was the Olympic. It was captained by Edward Smith, the same captain that went down in the Titanic. He didn't have the best reputation. He was a bit of a drinker. It was actually an excessive drinker. And the first ship he captained was the Olympic, and he was involved in 3 very serious accidents. So much so that the Olympic was one thing, it wasn't going to pass a marine inspection, much like they have today. Every commercial vehicle is inspected once a year, either pass or fail. So the 3 collisions he had compromised the ship. It wasn't going to pass for inspection. The second big issue was that Lloyd's of London, the insurance carrier for the Olympic, came out and said, after a naval review, they said, you're not getting a penny, Mr. Morgan. So you're out of ship. You've lost millions of dollars. What do you do?
He built the Titanic then, right? No?
Well, there's a mystery there, and if I go any further, I might give it away.
Okay.
But he pulled something off. That's the theory, and then again, it's all documented here. When you read it, it's just going. And it's all factual. I don't make anything up.
But how did they allow a captain again to steer a ship who's got a drinking issue?
I don't know. I mean, that's
It's like a pilot on a plane.
Yeah, but I don't imagine they had much. I don't know how you'd monitor and enforce that type of thing.
Back then.
Yeah, back in those days, it was just it was. So that's one narrative. That's extremely compelling. The other narrative that's going on here. There's a family that lives on Jamestown, Rhode Island.
Yeah, Simon, right?
Well, Simon, he's a person that has clairvoyant ability, much like Madame Alice does. He's called out to go to this home on Jamestown where the Miller family lives. Delilah is a teenage daughter of the Captain Miller who lives there with his family. Mm-hmm. And in 1938, there was a devastating hurricane. They say it's probably the worst that's ever been recorded.
Yeah.
And it devastated the area. And one section of Jamestown, which is called the Beavertail section, large homes, stately mansions were just destroyed in that hurricane. So I go into that and I talk about that hurricane causes an awful lot of personal traumatic issues to that family there. Mm-hmm. So, and then it's how they deal with the storm, how they cope with it afterwards. And so again, it's these two narratives that go back and forth. And in the end, Madame Alice brings them all together. And there's a really, I'm blowing my own horn here. That's why I'm here, right?
That's why you're here.
That's right. It has an extremely, it's a gut you factor.
Yeah.
You read it, and I've had quite a few good reviews on Amazon. A lot of people, not one has come up to me and said, I saw it coming. Most people come and say, you know what, you got me.
You did a lot of research for this.
I did. I did a lot of research.
How long did it take you to write this?
Well, it probably took me longer than it should have. I'm retired. But I would say, there goes my knee again, sorry. Year and a half.
Year and a half. That's not bad.
No.
This was you published in 2018 or not this year?
I think that's 2016.
Let's see, 2016. August 28. No, okay, that was 1918. All right, 2016. That's not that long ago.
No.
And then this was the first, and your second, which we don't have it to show you, George's Hurricane.
Right.
That was pretty cool. What was that about?
Well, again, I like to tie historical events, people into all my novels, because I think it really gives you. People can connect with it. Yes, it's a historical fiction. George's Hurricane is more of a fiction, but I take historical events and real people, fictionalize them. But I think it gives people a lot of connection there for people when they read. Mm-hmm. And George's Hurricane deals with the 1938 hurricane. Mm-hmm. But there was a lighthouse on Prudence Island, and there was a lighthouse keeper and his wife and 4 children. Well, again, that 38 hurricane was devastating. The entire family, the lighthouse, was washed out to sea. Everybody in the family was killed except one son, the oldest son. His name was George, George Gustavus. I knew him as a kid growing up. A friend of his helped save him from actually swam in and pulled him out. He would have probably passed away. But so these two people, real people, I just take them and fictionalize them. And so he began to act a little crazy after. I can imagine that's probably watching your family die at that age was pretty traumatic. So he began, people on the island, and myself included, began to call him Crazy George. Kind of unfair, kind of cruel, I'll have to admit that.
How old was he?
When this happened, he was probably, at Hurricane, he was probably 16 years old, 17 years old.
Oh, no wonder it affected him. He was a kid.
Yeah, right. And, but so what happens that in George's Hurricane, every time there's a hurricane, there's a murder on the island. So,
now, was this based in fact, or? Or no?
No,
This
no.
part you added to it.
I add to it, right? Yeah. The fact that he lost his family in the hurricane.
That's all true.
That's all true. He became known as Crazy George. He had this friend that I fictionalized. They were
Yeah.
real people. I just fictionalized what happened and kind of theorized. Well, what if this happened? You know, how would it just play out? So I did that, and I think it was. Which one did you enjoy the most?
Well, it's hard to say. I like this one because I love the paranormal. I like the fortune telling and that type of thing.
All right.
You are a historical fiction writer, basically, right? Would you say?
I guess maybe, but my third book is it's a little historical, but it's primarily fiction. I guess I go where I feel comfortable.
What's your third book?
I don't have a name, but it's a sequel to Madame Alice. I had so many people ask me what's happened to Madame Alice. Where does she go from here?
Yeah.
So I have that. I've got probably. Oh, I'm hoping to be done in a couple, 3 weeks on it.
The Gilded Age of New York. When was that? What was the time period of that?
That was probably the early 1900s up to 1920s. You know, up and before the stock market crash. And there's a lot of things I go in here and I talk about that things that happened to and touch on and just provide some historical history is fascinating if you know where to look for it.
Oh yeah.
You know the little fact. You know I talk about the plague of the late 1900s there, not the late 1819, the Spanish influenza.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of people who don't realize how potentially devastating it could be. So I researched that, you document that in there. One of my characters affected by that. So there's a lot of little events that I researched. It gives the stories some substance.
You've never been a writer before.
No.
What did you do for work?
Engineer. Yeah.
We have so many engineers that they retire and then they begin writing.
Yeah, I shouldn't have been an engineer.
You didn't like it?
No. I'm not disciplined enough to be an engineer. I forced myself, but.
Did you grow up in this area?
Well, I grew up in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. I was born in Providence, raised in Pawtucket, and then I was lucky as a kid to have that Prudence Island connection. I spent my summers out there. I developed some really fantastic relationships with.
Do you know Ray Wolf from Rhode Island? He writes, everything from the famous outhouses to famous cars, antique cars. He's been on here a number of times.
Okay.
He is fun.
Okay.
I think he belongs to the writers group in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Were you in the huge expo?
Yes, I did, and I think that's where.
That's where we met.
That's correct. Yes.
That was overwhelming.
Did you liked it?
It's not that I didn't like it. It's just that there was so many, hundreds,
Oh yeah,
that I couldn't possibly get to everybody.
Oh, it's like I'm going to use a corny phrase, a kid in a candy store, but it's like you don't know. I felt bad for people because they walked in, they're just like, where do I turn?
Oh yeah.
You know, and it's like running a gauntlet. You know.
The one up. Have you been to the one in Danversport every July? The New England
No,
Authors
I'm going to
Expo?
try and get out more than I.
Okay, the
should.
New England Authors Expo. That's beautiful in a big ballroom, but it's not that overwhelming feeling. I talked to one of the authors at the Rhode Island Expo, and she said this is overwhelming. When an author tells you it feels overwhelming, you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not. How can they get a hold of your book?
The thing is, it's when you self-publish it, which that's what it is. I mean, Stillwater, working with Steve Porter, fantastic guy. His wife Dawn,
She's been on here many times.
Yeah,
right?
she's a real sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. I'm at some few bookstores, but really, if you want to get my book, Amazon is probably the best. I hate to say that, but
Call Me Madam.
That's the reality of it.
Call Me Madam Alice and George's Hurricane on Amazon.
Amazon, correct.
Where have you been appearing?
Not a lot. I started to say self-publishing is like pushing a rock up a hill. It really is. It's hard to get yourself out there, and I'm going to be 70 in a couple of months. So I enjoy writing.
And you just discovered this when you retired.
Yeah, I know. Can you believe that?
What does your family think about that?
Well, I think if my mother was still alive, she passed away just recently. She was 98, but at the end
Wow.
she was losing it.
Yeah.
I think she would have been extremely proud of me.
Oh, how many kids do you have?
I have 2 boys.
What do they think?
Oh, my kids, they love my books. And their friends love the books too. I think they're, we kind of, I think anybody who writes their own book, you like to walk into realize you've written a great American story. Mm-hmm. So you have that feeling that, you hope it's going to go well, but And I don't know. I'm still waiting for the feedback. I'm not out there looking for the feedback. That's probably my problem, too.
Gotta get out there, yeah.
Yeah. But,
how far would you be, if somebody's watching and they, gee, we'd like to have him come speak, how far would you be willing to travel? All over New England?
probably. Yeah.
Probably, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, this is, as you can see, I'm comfortable doing this.
Yep.
I enjoy this.
You have no problem getting up there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Have you been over to Tatnup Bookseller over here in Westboro? You probably haven't. We've got so many places around here. You'd love it. They love books.
Oh, I'm in the right direction.
Oh. You go in the, I know Barnes & Noble's great, but I love Tatnuck up in Westboro. It's cozy. It's medium-sized. It has a lovely sitting area with the easy chairs, and you just get away from it all. You pick a book, you can pile them up. It's wonderful. And then they have a huge room for presentations, or if you're shy, a beginning author, they'll put you up closer to the checkout counter and a little table, and you can sit there.
Yeah, no,
Not everybody's. You're very. Oh, you have no problem. You'll be getting out there completely. Now, Call Me Madame Alice came first. Then George's Hurricane. How can I say? Giving them a tip about George's Hurricane. Every time a hurricane happened, there was a murder.
Correct.
Now that part you made up, right? That's the part you made into the story.
Right.
Do you leave it as, I'm not going to say, do you leave it as a cliffhanger, or will people know in the end? Was it him? Well, not him, but somebody on the island doing that.
I leave you convinced who it is
Okay.
at the end, but at the very, very end, if there's such a thing, I open the can of worms. I just whoa, maybe it wasn't him.
Maybe it wasn't him. She really, this fascinates me, Madame Alice. She really, Narragansett Bay, she really, how old was she then? I mean, she wouldn't be around now.
No, I think she was born in 1888. She passed away in 1962, something like that.
She'd be my grandparents.
Yeah.
She was born around that time. I never heard of her.
No. And Prudence Island, it's off the beaten path, that's for sure. And it
Where is it? Where is it off of Rhode Island?
right in the middle of Narragansett Bay. It's that big bay that comes up the middle of Rhode Island. If you look on a map, there's a little island. It's called Prudence Island. Mm-hmm. It's just north of Jamestown.
Yeah.
Okay, it's about almost the same square mileage as Jamestown, smaller, but close. And it's there's no bridge, so there's a ferry. And back then there was a ferry that just was kind of infrequent.
Is that why they call the Jamestown Ferry?
There was a Jamestown Ferry, yeah.
What's that commercial? Ride the something.
Oh no, you're
ferry.
thinking about the New Shoreham Ferry that goes to Block Island.
The Block Island Ferry. That's what the commercial on TV is,
Yes,
right? The Block Island Ferry. Okay, so that's not the same one.
No.
Okay, so there's one to Jamestown. How long does it take you to get there?
The ferry to Prudence is you leave from Bristol, Rhode Island. It's about a half hour ride.
Oh, I could handle that.
Yeah.
I have a tough time going to Martha's Vineyard because the Atlantic. The Pacific is more. I hear it's like this, but they kept telling me, look at the horizon. I'm like, no, it did not work. I had to go downstairs and just sit there.
Yeah.
Is there any memorial to her? Anything there?
No. I got an awful lot of background information on her because one of my best friends, this was his aunt. So he gave me an awful lot of background information on it, and she was well respected. She had people that came from as far as Chicago, Illinois, for her psychic ability, her guidance, and a lot of people. After I wrote this book, people started, approaching me and said, Madame Alice did this for me, and Madame Alice, she predicted this, and it kind of just.
And those people are still around who actually went to her.
Yes.
She died in 1962?
Right, around there, 65. I had to look at that.
I wonder how old she was.
I'm guessing she was probably middle to late 70s. She was born in 1890.
Okay, back then. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh.
But she was a very interesting woman, and as a kid, she had this. I don't want to say reputation, but this. Maybe it was reputation, but she was this dark, mysterious woman, and she had, the big earrings.
Was she gypsy by name? Rom?
Well, I think you might want to say, if you had a picture, an image in your mind, that's what you would say. She was a gypsy, but that she was certainly not that lifestyle. I mean, she and her husband, they ran an inn, the Prudence Inn on Prudence Island, and it had about, I think we had about maybe 15 rooms.
Is it still there?
Yes, it is. Yep.
We have a fellow, Tom D'Agostino, who is a paranormal investigator. I wonder if he's been there. I bet he'd love to go there. I'll bet that would tell some stories.
Oh, I bet it would. Yeah.
Have you stayed overnight there?
No, I bet it.
You visited them.
Yeah.
Did you actually write the book at home where you are in Attleboro? Or did you often go up there and write it there on the island?
I wrote a lot on the island. I mean, it's where I guess that's where my roots are. I spent so much time as a kid. So, and actually, my wife is going to retire in a month, and we're going to move out there full time.
You're going to move out to Prudence Island?
Yeah. Right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So your next book, the follow-up to Call Me Madam Alice, will be probably when you're already moved.
I may get it out. I'm trying to get the artwork done, and then I got to get it over to Steve Porter to get it proofread.
Yeah, you get to do your own. Did you do your own cover?
Yes, I did.
Good. See, you did a great job.
Thank you.
Too many people, I've said this endlessly, but authors who try to get with a lot of other publishers, the publishers cut them off at the knees. Yeah, we'll publish it, but we're doing your cover, and you're on your own getting yourself publicized out there.
Yeah.
That's rough. I want to do my own cover, thank you. You did a great job.
I had a big 3x5 poster at the ARIA book event.
Yeah.
And that would have pulled you in.
Yeah, well, that's what I tell the authors. When you go to these things, put something big up there to get the attention of people. And then George's Hurricane, did you have a poster for him?
No. I had a smaller one on the table, but next to me I had a big... and people love that
it's hard to miss this. So they can get your book, Call Me Madam Alice, by Ken Garlick, and...
Like the spice.
It's on Amazon.
Yep.
Right?
Yes, it is. Yep.
And also I'm going to be donating my copy, and you can cash this downstairs in the Upton Library. It says fiction, but with all the work you did historically, I call it a beautiful historical fiction.
Yeah, that book is. Yes, it is. Yeah.
And the sequel to it coming up, maybe in a year or more, is going to be the same, just to follow her up, as more of that, or will it be more, you're taking it further?
I'm taking it further. She's pulled into another adventure, and so she and Simon, who they were sort of a tag team in this book here. The two have been involved in another pilgrimage journey, whatever, and it's compelling,
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of people prefer this book because of the historical significance of it, but.
Yeah,
you liked it. That's what
I do, but I also like
she liked it. That's
I do, but I also like a good murder mystery. So George's Hurricane is cool too.
You like that? Good.
You did a great job. Oh my gosh! So we're going to have you back on, and you may be at Prudence Island by then.
Well, I'll come.
Really?
Yes. Oh yeah.
All right. We have Ken Garlick, author of Call Me Madam Alice, and we don't have the book with us right now, but it exists. George's Hurricane, based on true facts.
Yes.
And you did a lot of research, and he's from. Were you always from Attleboro?
No, I was born in Providence, raised in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Started going out to Prudence Island, like I said, 1952, and that's where I am.
And that's where you are now.
That's where I am now, exactly.
Very good. Well, we're going to see him again. Thanks for
I
coming.
hope so. Thank you.
We'll see you next time on Be My Guest. Great job, Ken.